Hey, Southeast, I hope you are doing well. We are now past Thanksgiving, which means we are headed into the celebration of Christmas, the birth of Christ. And like you, I love this time of year, but I also recognize that it's difficult this time of year as well for a lot of people. But we also recognize it is a mixed bag, that life comes with frustrations and with joys, and those things go together. And so we remember that. And so my hope and my prayer for you is that as we approach the season of Advent, as we celebrate the birth of Christ, that you would remember just how dependent you are on Christ, just how dependent I am on Christ, is that's our need. We need to know him in a deeper way, not just day by day, but moment by moment. And one of the things that I've been meditating on lately has been the testimony of Paul. He kind of had this backwards testimony. And when he becomes a Christian and he surrenders his life to Christ and he's, the apostle to the Gentiles, he looks at his life and he goes, "Look, I'm the least of the apostles. I'm the least of the apostles." But then after a little while, after he recognizes he's the least of the apostles, he begins to recognize that he is the least of the church. He looks around and he goes, "Man, I'm the least of the saints." But even further into his ministry, he looks and he recognizes, I'm not just the least of the apostles, and I'm not just the least of the saints. I'm the chief of sinners. And what he means by this is it's not saying that he wasn't growing in his faith. In other words, allowing the cross, the life of Christ, the Spirit to produce fruit in him. And it's not that he was not growing in his relationship with Christ so that people could look at him and say, oh, there's a mature Christian person. But I think as he was growing in Christ, he was recognizing just how needy he is. You see, that's what happens when we become a Christian. When you surrender your life to Christ, is you go, oh man, God, I'm in the pit and I need saved from this pit. And God saves us from that pit. But then he goes, you need more than just out of the pit. There's so much more that you need to hand over to me. And so I think that's what Paul was saying in these testimonies. If you line them up, is yes, I'm growing in Christ, but man, it's not what I'm doing, it's what Christ is doing in my life. I'm so dependent on him. And so one of the verses that talks about this is found in the Philippians. So Paul writes to the church in Philippi, and he says this, "And I am sure of this, that he that began a good work in you will bring it to completion on the day of Jesus Christ." So what he's saying is that when somebody surrenders their life to Christ, they are justified. You are declared innocent. It's not that you are innocent, but we are declared innocent. We are covered by the blood of Christ. And that's an amazing position to be in. But then God continues to sanctify us to make us more like Christ in everything that we do. And so that's what Paul is saying in this verse, is he's saying, I know that God, who put the Spirit in you, he is going to continue that work until the day of completion. And so you and I, we get to have confidence in that. And so my prayer for you this holiday season, as we celebrate the birth of Christ, that you would recognize just how dependent you and I are on Christ. This last week, I saw a quote by Chad Bird, and I wanted to share that with you. He says this: "There comes a point in every believer's life when you realize you had everything backward. You thought you were holding on to the promises of God, and you realized, no, these promises were holding on to you with an iron grip. You suppose that you were striding along the path of holiness, but no, you, an unholy sinner, are being borne along on the shoulders of the Holy One of God. You thought you had a tight grip on the word and the work of Jesus, but no, you were held captive, seized, nailed to Jesus himself, with whom you co-die and are co-buried and rise to the newness of life. You silly Christian, you never had a single thing to do with it. It was all done to you and for the while God, and done to you and for you, while God, for a time, just let you carry on your little daydream that you had a little skin in the game of salvation. But now you awake to the reality. It was Jesus, only Jesus all along, doing it all for you and in you." And so that's my hope. As we celebrate Christmas, that you would recognize just how dependent you are on Jesus and everything. Whether you're going through joys or whether you're going through trials, that you would just cling to him. Hey, we got cool things are happening. Make sure that you check out the website and see all the events that are happening. But I want to make sure that you know about this. Coming up this Sunday is the women's ministry event. They're having a soup event, and it's right after church. It's in room 15. Bring a batch of soup, and then bring the recipe with that soup so that you can share it with other people. And if it's a secret recipe, don't worry about it. Just make something up. But it'll be a great time for our women. Hope you can join them for that. Southeast, I love you. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful week, and God bless.